An 8-5 workday is 9 billable hours, not 8. I don't know how long this has been common in office jobs, as I've always worked 9-5. With remote I had work calls much later at night sometimes, but at least I had flexibility during the day. I got unimaginably screwed this past 6 months trying to find work. Literally 1,000 applications and only just now getting responses after lying on my resume. Multiple jobs are giving low hourly rates for 8-5. I just asked the recruiter, "Is this 9 billable hours?" Offended response: "No. Hour lunch break, 8 hours, etc." No. You're paying for my occupied time. I don't give a shit about an hour lunch break. I'm not working 45 hours a week. Which is what that is. And you damn well know my position of automating processes doesn't require that much of a daily commitment. You want me to work 8-5 p.m.? You pay for overtime. Edit: if you're offended by this, I'm not sure what to say. You've accepted something unions fought for a century ago. You should be paid for time you cannot use on your own. 60 minutes in the middle of the day to sprint to the gym, make an appointment, etc. is your wasted time. You can eat a 15-minute meal at your desk in between emails and calls. Nobody is working, constantly busy, for 8 hours in a day in an office job. If there is a mandated hour, great. Squeeze in during my 9-5. You know, the term we use when discussing corporate life. Going to your 9-5. I do about 2 hours of actual work in your average 8-5 day. I'm tired of hearing people say go do X, Y, or Z during that hour. Okay, but 5 minutes to leave my desk and get to my car. It's lunch hour, so heavy traffic means 30 minutes to get to your destination to pick up lunch. And then you have to drive back in traffic, walk to your desk in 5 minutes, and get back to work. Shit blows. I'd rather eat lunch at my desk and leave an hour early. I should be able to choose when to use my hour since it's mandated to take an hour for lunch anyway. Yeah, I've only experienced the 8-5 BS with an unpaid lunch. The lunch hour is def not your time. If I'm WFH, sure, I can do chores, take care of personal business, walk the dog, etc. But when you're tethered to an office, that hour is super restricted and should be paid. I work a 9-5 job, and as long as I don't leave the office I get a 30-minute paid lunch. These companies that require a 1-hour unpaid lunch are so full of crap. I love it when people say been like this for X years, as if that makes it any better. Reading some of these comments, I had to double check I was actually in the AntiWork sub. I don't know why people are defending 8-5 lol. Did people forget what sub this is? Yeah, boomers used to be paid during the lunch hour. You're fucking right. Posts like these make me so glad I left the USA for EU. I am in an office job now, working 9-5, with a mandatory 30 minutes lunch that is paid. And if it's a desk job, it's mandated you take a 5-minute break after each hour of work in front of a PC. I have been setting the expectation up front for years now that I do not take lunch breaks. 8 hours and I'm out. It's a privilege to be able to wield that honestly fucking petty amount of negotiating power. During my 8-5 job, sometimes I wouldn't take a lunch break and I'd leave at 4 p.m. They couldn't do anything about it. Yeah, 8-5 is awful. I grew up hearing 9-5, but apparently that was just a damn lie. I work 8-5 remote. You bet your ass I'll spend my 60-minute lunch parked on my couch or taking a nap in my bed lol. I'm not getting paid for that time, it's mine to do as I please. The short answer is the Fair Labor Standards Act says employers can offer an unpaid lunch and an Employee will be relieved of all duties during that time. A number of states have state-specific lunch break laws on the books. The law says they can do this, so they do it. A large enough percentage of people basically decided, okay, one unpaid hour or half hour at work so I can eat a lunch is an acceptable compromise. That laws got adopted reflecting that, depending on your state, you might be able to negotiate a true 8-hour day, but no lunch break. You want that changed? Gotta get organized to get the federal laws tightened up there. If a job requires you somewhere from X time to Y time, they should pay you for that time. And all the breaks you need during that time. And generous commute time, goddammit. It's not like you're really free at any point, even if you're not working and off the clock during a break. That boot on the neck does not taste good. Ew. No thank you. Take lunch at 4 p.m. You are correct and you should say it. This is why I get pissed when people schedule meetings on my lunch break. Like fuck right the hell off. I posted about this last week and learned that AntiWork should be renamed to Crabs in a Bucket. The amount of vitriol I received for asking if a 9-hour workday is some new standard was insane. People defended the hour for lunch like it was, well, their job. The hour break or however long it is because of state law, not the employer. If it was up to the employer, you'd have no break. Absolutely agree. When did 9/5 become 8/5? And will it end there? Probably not. This is one of the myriad of advantages of a proper remote setup that no one will mention. When I have to work in an office, best I can do is block out my entire lunch to do my own thing. Sometimes under the radar and often without all the equipment necessary. Add in the commute is also billable and I'm on your team. I remember working one job where it was 7-3, and we had a half-hour lunch. It was 8 paid hours every day unless we left early. In reality we only had 2 10-minute paid coffee breaks and a half-hour unpaid lunch. But most of the time the boss would just combine the paid coffee breaks and toss in an extra 10 minutes so we could get a full check and leave on time for the traffic while still getting a proper break. For the cost of 10 minutes a day, the work schedule was much more sane than most barely an hour's work extra paid each week. Currently do this and it's BS. 50 of the time people schedule during it or you have to work through the lunch to meet deadlines. So even the company doesn't respect the time and you have to lie on your timesheets that you took it when you couldn't. It's BS. 9/5 with a 30-minute paid lunch and 2 15 stretch breaks is realistic. Time you cannot use on your own. That's it in a nutshell. Especially in the era of being able to work from home for many jobs. If you want me away from my house, you're paying me. Paid lunch was a lot more common even 15 years ago. This isn't just the way it is. You are absolutely right. It's bullshit and started with my second job in the mid-2000s. An 8-3-0-5 shift, then the next job after was 8-5 with our lunch. Like no. Foo. I'm stuck in this vicinity and I don't even need that many hours in a day to work. I'm burned out by 4 p.m. anyway. You're onto one of the oldest and biggest scams if they schedule for 9 hours but only pay you for 8. They're getting that 9th one for free because they can always pull you off your lunch break to do something if it comes up. Yeah, it's bullshit. You should see if you can forego that hour and leave early. 8-4 or 9-5 is much more tolerable. People forget what exactly was fought for by the unions and that lunch breaks were initially so many of them could go home to eat. Now, we can't even leave half the time. It should be a paid hour. It's just not. And you'll be hard-pressed to find many workplaces that do things 9-5 these days. Believe me, I've pushed back on the same thing. It's ridiculous.